1616. The deaths of Shakespeare and Cervantes marked the end of an era in literature, the passing of the European Renaissance. A new age was beginning. In this year, Dutch sea captains discovered the Cape Horn Passage around the southern tip of South America, further linking the worlds of the Atlantic and Pacific. It was the beginnings of globalism. Across the Pacific, Spain had established a colony at Manila in the Philippines. The purpose of the colony was to facilitate trade for fine Chinese silks and other luxury objects from Asia. China industrialized its silk production to capitalize on this trade, disrupting its traditional social order. In the West, the effects of the trade were equally dramatic. Each year, massive galleons sailed between Manila and Acapulco on the Pacific coast of Mexico. There, a trade fair was held where the silks were traded for silver from the Americas. The silver was extracted from rich mines in Zacatecas, Mexico, and especially from the Cerro Rico, the rich hill at Potosi, located high in the Andes, in present-day Bolivia, at an elevation more than 500 meters higher than Lhasa in Tibet. Native Americans were forced to work the mines. The work was often deadly. Some 8 billion miners are estimated to have died over the years the mine was most active. A native author named Waman Poma completed a lengthy book in 1616 that catalogued the abuses of the Spaniards. It would be the most extensive critique of Spanish colonial society by a Native American. The Spanish grew rich from the wealth of the mines. When the native population had been exhausted, they brought in slaves from Africa to augment the labor pool. In 1616, the first slave was brought to the Bahamas. This marked the beginnings of the North American slave trade. Within a few years, slaves would be introduced at Jamestown, the first successful English colony in North America. At Jamestown, a young native woman named Matoaka was kidnapped. She married one of the settlers and was taken to London to be exhibited as an example of the colony's success in converting Americans to Christianity. She would become famous under her childhood name of Pocahontas, which means mischief. In London, Matoaka witnessed an elaborate court masque presented before King James and Queen Anne. The court masques of 1616 promoted returning the rapidly changing English society to what were regarded as its traditional values. In this time of unsettling change, some artists looked back to the past for guidance, while others forged new directions. Some sought to accurately document their age. These paintings were commissioned by the Mughal Emperor Jahangir, while other artists created imaginative works inspired by the new developments. This picture of a young European feeding wine to a dog was painted by Risa-i Abbasi, the leading painter of Persia. There was considerable interaction among Asians and Europeans. Europeans found models for new scientific approaches and technologies in Eastern cultures. The development of new technologies such as the telescope contributed to emerging scientific attitudes. But these were sometimes met with resistance from entrenched ideas and interests. In 1616, Galileo was prohibited by the Catholic Church from teaching that the Earth orbits the Sun. Even as science was advancing, magical thinking also flourished. Belief in dark powers led to extensive witch hunts. The mother of the astronomer Johannes Kepler was one of those put on trial for witchcraft. And some groups were singled out as scapegoats. This engraving depicts the plundering of the Jewish ghetto in Frankfurt. Jews were driven from the city in 1614 and were not allowed to return until 1616. Some thinkers, like Jakob Bohm, depicted here, sought to rise above the troubles of the world through mystical studies. Many believed that alchemical and other esoteric knowledge could reveal the secrets of the universe, or that cultivation of the body and spirit could lead to escape from worldly suffering, and even extend life nearly to immortality. Although in 1616 most people worked small farms and never traveled far from them, still there were many like the Powhatan maiden Matoaka who journeyed great distances. Some traveled for wealth, power, or adventure, while others were in search of knowledge. A Japanese samurai named Yamada Nagamasa traveled to Thailand, where he became the governor of a province. Another samurai named Hasakura Tsunanaga traveled to Rome for an audience with the Pope. His visit was commemorated in a fresco in the papal summer residence, the Quirinale. An Ethiopian slave named Malik Ambar ended up in India, where he became the prime minister of a sultanate that was resisting the encroachment of the Muslim empire of the Mughals. A master of guerrilla warfare, he was a thorn in the side of the powerful Mughal emperor Jahangir. This dreamlike painting reflects Jahangir's desire to defeat Malik Ambar, a goal he never achieved. A pair of English brothers traveled to Persia, where they enlisted in the service of the Persian leader Shah Abbas, shown in this painting in an intimate moment of relaxation with a page boy. William Lithgow, a dour Scottish traveler, visited a notorious pirate in Tunisia and gave an account of his palatial estate. An Englishman named Thomas Coryat conceived a desire to ride an elephant. He walked through West Asia and reached Jahangir's court in India, where he realized his ambition. In China, a reclusive scholar named Xu Shake spent his time climbing mountains all over the country. He left a written account of his travels. Visual artists also documented Chinese mountains. The leading Chinese artist of the time was Deng Chichun, who created this image of the Qingbian Mountains. An Italian traveler named Pietro della Valle left his homeland after a failed romance. He traveled to Egypt, where he carved his initials in one of the pyramids, and discovered ancient mummy portraits, including this one, which he sent back to Europe. He traveled by camel caravan to Jerusalem, where he got a souvenir tattoo. In Baghdad, he married a local woman. He continued to Persia, where he met with Shah Abbas. But on their way to India, his wife died. He had her embalmed with camphor, hid her body in a chest full of clothing, and continued his journey. He spent some time in Goa on the India coast, where he attended a costume party in an outfit covered with a pattern of tears. Some years after his wife's death, he returned to Italy, still carrying her remains. It is said that for years a scent of camphor hung over his estate. Della Valle's story, and many more, are told in 1616, The World in Motion, to be published in February 2012 by Counterpoint Press.